Zac is usually a tanky jungler, but I have found a master player who actually plays Zac mid lane with a full AP build. So instead of a tank, he's an assassin. And even weirder than that, he averages around 2 CS per minute, which is about 8 less than you'd expect from a high elo mid laner. This is a huge amount of gold he's missing every game. So when you put these two things together, you have something game breaking. A pick with AoE burst damage that can kill multiple enemies, that's able to function on a very low income. This player is not just picking the meta and being gifted LP by Riot. He's completely mastered a super high risk playstyle that he's forced to execute perfectly to climb. Even Zac in high elo is super uncommon, but this guy has found a way to make him work. And of course, with his new AP build, he has some special tricks up his sleeve as well. But first, this video is sponsored by Porofessor. Porofessor is a League of Legends companion app, and it's something I use every game, as well as many of the high elo players from these videos. There's really no reason not to, when it's so useful for both in-game and out-of-game, giving you a free edge over your enemies. Porofessor gives you a ton of information, without even needing a second monitor to access it. It's built right into your game. It analyzes your stats while you play, so you can see how you compare against players in the rank above you, which means you can find out where you need to improve. Also importing item sets for your champion directly into the in-game shop, so you can get actually good items instead of the one that Riot recommends you. You can also see jungle timers on your map, so you can know when each camp is going to spawn, as well as having a ton of data about your opponents, so you can see which one of them is the weakest, so you can camp them and get a free win. And even before the game starts, Porofessor is very useful, importing the best runes automatically to your client. Porofessor is completely free and super easy to set up. Click the link in the description below to download it, and immediately start using it in your next game. Our player today is named Gimme a Hot Boy. Of course I asked him why was this his name, and he told me that when his Gimme a Hot Zac account got banned, this name was his logical next choice. Known as Hot Boy in high elo, he started playing Zac super late into his league career, in season 10, and even then he was playing off meta, playing Zac top. But it wasn't just Zac top. This guy has always played in a very unique way, and is quite notorious on EU West for how he does it. Instead of going top lane at level 1, he would camp in a bot lane bush, and try to cheese the enemy bot lane for a first blood, trying to get his team ahead right away. Back then he was playing a meta tank build, but in season 12, tank Zac started to struggle, due to all of his favourite items being quite weak. So our player had a look at Zac's stats. Seeing his incredible AP scalings, he wondered, is it possible to move Zac to mid lane and try a full AP build instead? So he began to test it, and even just with new runes, he began to notice how crazy high the damage was, right from the start of the game. He hadn't even bought any items yet, but with Electrocute he was getting kills on unsuspecting enemies, who of course had never seen this build before in high elo. Instead of being an engaged champion focused on healing, our player was playing an assassin who can jump on a group of enemies and quickly pop all of his damage to burst them before they can even react to it. With this high risk style, Hot Boy hit Grandmaster over 600 LP in early May, and has remained in high elo throughout the durability update. But there are so many things that are special about this guy. Not only is AP Zac quite literally unheard of in high elo due to how risky it is, but even Zac as a champion is very unpopular in high ranks. This is due to the counterplay that the champion has, which good players take advantage of. And of course Riot just don't add this to their new champions. Due to this high risk and obvious counters, our player had to invent something new, and so what he did was create the most elaborate game plan we've ever seen. From being like a spy, moving through fog of war, timing waves to be in the right spot at the right time to get a kill, to setting up fights himself at a specific time in the game, using all these tricks to maximize his usefulness and remove all of the counterplay from this champion, even turning Zac's jump from an ability that's easy to cancel or dodge even in low elo, to an ability that's literally impossible to avoid with his new combo, which is very important for such a squishy build. His game plan starts at level 1, buying a sweeper right away and walking to mid lane. He takes Q as it sets up a special trade. Think of it this way, we're playing in a Grandmaster level game, and we're playing AP Zac mid. Enemies don't know anything about this strategy. They don't know what you do in lane, they don't know how to fight you, and they rarely even get to see Zac in their games, let alone AP. So our player takes advantage of this, teaching them a lesson very quickly. With Q, he aims to hit the enemy and pull them into a minion. You can throw your Q and hit the enemy at range, or Q a minion and just auto-attack the enemy, letting you easily proc your Electrocute for some good damage. Right away, this teaches the enemy that, oh, this guy actually does damage if I walk up to him, so this makes them hesitant to trade with you, and immediately Zac takes advantage of this. He only cares about killing the first wave of 6 minions, and then the 3 melees in the next next wave, getting him to level 2. Instead of then trading, he immediately walks backwards towards his tower into the fog of war, making sure he doesn't show which direction he's moving, so that he's able to start a very early roam. Enemies have no idea what's going on. They start asking questions like, is he just playing safe because he's a melee laner? Is he waiting for them to push the wave in? But then, 10 seconds later, he appears in bot lane and they get their answer. Zac takes his E and collects a first blood, and this is timed specifically so that Zac can make it back in time to mid lane to get to the third wave, which is a cannon wave. The cannon wave is much harder for any low level mid laner to push, so Zac gets about 25 seconds for a roam, giving him just enough time to get back, to get the gold and the XP. But as soon as he's back mid lane and has collected his resources, he wants to leave again as soon as possible, roaming to any opportunity he sees, having the sweeper I mentioned earlier to make sure he's never ganking from on top of a ward, which is very important to avoid when you're playing Zac. While this is happening, the enemy mid laner will be shoving wave over and over again, but it's likely that this early on, they won't be able to do it fast enough to punish him. Zac is getting double kills all across the map, then comes back to mid and barely misses any CS, even able to move around with his jungler and punish the enemy mid for overextending. He bases early for a dark seal, starting to build up some free AP from all of his roams. The reason this is different to all of the other roaming mid laners is because our Zac takes advantage of these quick 20-second windows where he can roam to use his big jump as a gap closer and then return mid, threatening the enemy. It's especially great against scaling mages, which are literally the best mid laners right now. This is because early on they don't have enough damage to quickly push the wave while Zac is roaming, and on top of that, these champions aren't built to roam, so they can't really match him. Since it's solo queue, they'll probably get flamed and feel like they're forced to roam, but they are very immobile, so if they leave lane, they're going to suck at ganking, and they can even get collapsed on by Zac and die. All of this solves another problem that Zac usually has, especially when he's played in lane, and that is the cheap anti-heal items that the laner can just buy against him and make him a much worse champion. By leaving lane over and over, he invalidates this purchase and aims to make the enemy mid useless. His first item is also very unique for this build, immediately beginning to buy components for Zhonyas. This item is great on AP Zac for two reasons. Firstly, it stops enemies from abusing the fact he's behind in XP. He can't be ganked or dived thanks to this item, so even if he's the weakest player on his team, he's still able to be relevant and not int. But then it can also be used offensively. With Zac's high AP scalings, he starts to get some really good damage, being able to use stopwatch early on to do tower dives, giving him a way to instantly drop tower aggro and reset the damage. And then in fights, Zhonyas is another safety tool he can use to stall in bad situations, using it to turn a disaster into a positive play for his team and some kills. Importantly, he never buys Zhonyas until he's used his stopwatch, which he gets from his runes. The reason for this is that when you upgrade to Zhonyas, the cooldown is reset, so if you use your stopwatch in a fight, and then you base to buy Zhonyas, immediately you can use the invulnerability again, surprising enemies who don't expect it. The surprise factor is a huge part of all of the AP Zac playstyle, as you can tell from his roams, so this little tip is an important addition. And of course, having Zhonyas on Zac is just pretty cool. You can use it during your E for some extra style points. The damage of your E still goes off, letting Zac use his CC, and then stalling for his teammate to catch up to get the kill, while he stays safe. His game plan now continues. Between roams, he keeps track of Dragon, aiming to get a level 6 fight with his team. Super importantly, he needs to guarantee that his ultimate and flash are available for when this fight happens, so he never uses them on single kills around the map. Dragon's necessary for this playstyle as you're early game based, so you need to use this early game power to start stacking dragons to give you a win condition for later on. This is where his zero counterplay kill combo comes in. At this point of the game, your champion's still very risky, and the biggest risk is using your E on an enemy and then flashing away from it, letting them kite you and shut you down. So this combo aims to avoid that happening. With all of his summoners and abilities up, he hits a Q on an enemy champion, and then flash auto attacks a second champion to knock them into each other, which he can instantly combo into his E and then his ultimate. Even if enemies have a flash or a dash, they actually can't escape from this damage. They're going to get knocked up, they're going to take it no matter what. Even if they have cleanse, they can't use it on the knockup. This combo is much lower risk than just using your E jump to get onto an enemy to engage, actually making the champion much more viable against mobility, and completely eliminates the chance that enemies can flash or dash away. This big early fight is a great way to win on the new patch, as it's just big enough to get you far ahead, and once you're ahead, it's now much harder for enemies to come back. But even in a perfect game like this one, where Zac has collected a lot of kills early on, he's still in fact behind in XP and gold in mid lane. It looks bad, but this isn't a problem for our player. He's actually very team focused, first. He's happy to give up resources mid in exchange for winning top, bot, and jungle. Instead of farming, he takes Treasure Hunter in his runes to reward him for extra roaming, and Futures Market to let him get to power spikes earlier, so even when he's basing with not very much gold, he can still have a good buy. His next item is Demonic Embrace, giving him health and burn damage, which increases your kill range to more champions. It's also the perfect thing for the durability update, where Zac has a harder time one-shotting people, but with this burn damage, he can still finish them off. Another great bonus of being AP is that you can even buy Banshee's Veil against the super hard counters. Champions like Poppy, Janna, or Alistar can interrupt your E-jump every time you use it, and this completely ruins your champion, but thanks to Banshees, your engage will still go through, and he can get all of his damage off. This is a completely new thing for Zac. It's an item you never see anyone buy, especially in high elo, that instantly removes a huge weakness of the champion. With this fast-paced playstyle, Zac wants to keep snowballing and end the game quickly. He roams top lane using a special trick to kill tanks under his tower. If there's an enemy with a Sunfire Immolate passive that does AoE damage, Zac can knock them up under tower and immediately give them tower aggro even if they don't hit you. They get fully chain CC'd and keep taking tower shots. He's able to get through their whole health bar without them even really making any mistakes. The only mistake they made was being full health and not flashing away from a Zac who came from Fog of War. In teamfights, Zac's goal is to let enemies come to him. If he's able to surprise them with a jump from Fog of War, his chances of winning that fight go up by a ton. If he's chasing enemies and missing abilities, he's very easy to punish. So he buys 2 control wards on every base at this point, using them and Sweeper to create more Fog of War for his team. His jump range is now huge and his burst combo is still very good, which even lets him use his E as a gap closer to jump in, jumping over multiple walls and then using flash Q into ult to burst enemies, again with no option to dodge it. Zac can also look for 1v1s, now buying some tank items, including his Mythic. He has more than enough damage already, so getting health and resistances make him much safer. Using Q on a minion, then auto-attacking an enemy is much more reliable than trying to hit the Q skill shot. This is something you need to use throughout the game, but especially makes his 1v1s much easier, as most champions can't dodge your auto-attack. To give this pick a rating, we need to start with Zac. Zac as a champion, in my opinion, has been underrated for years now. He's the perfect simple jungler for almost every elo. If his jump wasn't so easy to interrupt, then he would easily be a pro play pick. So thanks to this AP build with these special strategies and the option to go Banshees, a lot of his normal weaknesses are now gone. Tank Zac will still likely be better for most elos, as it's lower risk and still has great base damage, but AP Zac is the perfect counter for scaling and mobile mages, so now's the perfect time to try this pick out. For his full build, he starts Doran Shield every game to help against poke, cooldown reduction boots, as cooldown reduction is super important on Zac, Dark Seal early on into Zhonyas, and Demonic most games, with Banshees as a second option if he needs it. Then he goes into full tank, with a mythic like Even Shroud. It's quite a cheap item which lets him get it earlier on. Then items like Thornmail or Spirit Visage to fit the enemy's damage. Every game he bans Yuumi, as he can never kill anyone that she's protecting, and he definitely can't outscale her. But Janna is another good ban due to her Tornado being your biggest counter in the game, so you should probably ask a teammate to ban that as well. Taking Ignite Flash every game so that he can just have a little bit of extra damage to get early kills and start snowballing. Here are the runes he takes every game: Electrocute for maximum burst, and don't forget Treasure Hunter for extra gold, with Stopwatch and Futures Market in his secondaries. He has actually been trying a Glacial Zac page that looks very fun as well, and he's doing that in the jungle. So if you want to see more, then he streams every day on Twitch. That link is in the description, along with our sponsor, Porofessor, so please check them both out. Thanks so much for watching.